Hi guys, this is Che. I'm doing homework for question number 2. The question is to draw y equals gx and find and draw the big F of y and the small f of y in terms of the big F of x and small f of x. So y equals gx equals this number and the domain is given. This is the graph, the corresponding graph. So let's go over how I did this. When x is less than 0, y is 1, and when x is larger than 0, x is between 0 to 1 is just 0, so I had a line here, and from 1 to 2 it's negative x, so in this y equals negative x is like this line, cross origin, but we only take the part where x is between 1 and 2, so it's like this. And after x is bigger than 2, the graph just remains constant like this. So how do we find the second part, the big F of y? So we can tell from the graph that g of x is between 1 and negative 2. Beyond y equals 1, beyond this point, the big Fy of y is just 1 because of the max probability of the probability mass function is 1. So the big F of y is 1 when y goes beyond 1, and after it's going when y goes below negative 2 is 0 because nothing happens there. Now let's do the small f of y. We realized that there are 3 impulses. If we see it this way, the horizontal axis is the horizontal axis is y-axis now. So the 3 impulses will be when y at 1, and the second one will be y at 0, and the third one will be y at negative 2. So when at y equals 1, which is here, we have this impulse. We can write the probability of y equals 1 equals the probability of x is less than 0. So the probability of y equals 1 when is the same as the probability of x is smaller than 0. We have the impulse function here. Impulse function of y minus 1 times the big F of x at 0. We got this big F of x of 0 from this thing here. And now we discuss about the impulse function at y equals 0. We have the probability of y equals 0 equals the probability of the x between 0 and 1. So when y is 0, we have x between 0 and 1. So we have the units that, the impulse function of y and we get this big f of x of 1 minus big f of x of 0 from this part, and we just times it to the impulse function. And now at y equals -2, the probability of y equals -2 equals the probability of x larger than or equal to 2, right? We can see y is -2 when x is greater than 2, greater than or equal to. So we can write it like this, and this is also the same as 1 minus the probability of x smaller than 2. So we can write the impulse function of y plus 2 times 1 minus the big f of x of 2. And this is the same as this. I just copied it from the sticky note. So we have the 3 impulses. This is the graph of small f of y. The 3 impulses are here at -2, at 0, and at 1. And we realized that between -1 and -2, there is this negative x graph. So we look back to the question, which gave us this small f of x graph. We can see from this graph that because now x and y are switched, so we're looking when x is actually -1, from -1 to -2, which is this part. So we can draw a similar graph to here. This part is the same as this part, from -2 to -1. So it's a curve like this. Now let's do the big F y. So we know from this graph, when y is larger than or equal to 1, we have the big F of y equal to 1 because of the probability mass function property. And from -2 to -1, the big f of y is just equal to the big F of x of y. And when y is less than -2, nothing happens, so it's 0. Now let's graph this. From -2 to -1, at -2 there's the impulse, here's the impulse, and this graph is just this graph here. Okay, now from -1 to 0, from -1 to 0, nothing happened here, so it's just constant. And from 0 to 1, there's a impulse at 0 here, so we draw the impulse up here, and this is actually this function. This is actually the big F of x of 1 minus big F of x of 0. And from 0 to 1, again nothing happened, so it's a constant until we hit another impulse at y equals 1, which is also the last impulse. So we have f of x of 0. So we just draw the impulse here, and then after y is when y go beyond 1, it will just remain as at 1 because of the probability mass function. The total probability is 1. So that's it for this question.